Jai Gurudev. I'm John Hagelin, Minister of Science and Technology of the global country of world peace. Welcome to this global conference on Mahārshi Vedic architecture, Mahārshi Sthapatya Ved, and a reconstruction program to bring the benefits of architecture in harmony with natural law to the 6 billion people of our world. This is a sixth in a series of conferences from 70 Broad Street, New York, New York, the address of the global capital, global financial capital of New York, an institution that is designed by Mahārshi Mahesh Yogi and established by the global country of world peace under the authority of Maharaja Nararam, first ruler of the global country of world peace. This global financial capital of New York has as its purpose to elevate the economy of the world, to be completely life-supporting, to bring prosperity to every citizen in the world, to eliminate poverty and promote life in accord with natural law for full human creativity, greatest human achievements, and full success and happiness in life. Part of reconstructing the world's economy is to improve the quality of health of the world, to improve the quality of education in the world. We have had conferences in these preceding days that cover these crucial aspects of life and society. Part of it is to bring security and invincibility to every nation. All of these subjects and more represent different initiatives of the global financial capital of New York to prevent problems and eliminate them, and to bring life everywhere to be fully in accord with natural law. But one essential part of this global outreach program of the global financial capital of New York is to improve markedly the quality of the housing in which people live, the buildings in which people work, and hospitals and schools, and especially government buildings, in which the representatives of government work and where they make crucial decisions that impact the lives of millions of people every day. Now we know, according to research, that the character of the building and the quality of the building in which one lives or resides or works has a very marked impact on the coherence of thinking, on the levels of harmony versus conflict, chaos, and incoherence. Indeed, the building, its orientation, its proportions, and so forth, have a direct influence, a measurable influence, on the coherent functioning of the brain, a measurable effect on the firing of the neurons, which can be very scattered or incoherent in a building that is not designed in an orderly way, not designed in accord with natural law, versus a highly orderly and intelligent and coherent style of functioning for maximum creativity and achievement and success, if the building is properly oriented in light of natural law. The ancient Vedic science of architecture, the most ancient and sublime system of architecture in the world, has complete knowledge of how to build structures that are maximally life-supporting, fortune-creating, health-promoting, how to build a structure, a physical building, that is aligned with natural law, to help bring the life of the occupants of the building to be in harmony with natural law. This science of architecture, ancient science, eternal science, has been revived in this scientific age in a highly systematic, practical way by Mahārshi Mahesh Yogi, world's foremost Vedic scholar and foremost scientist of consciousness. Mahārshi Mahesh Yogi has taken the scattered Vedic literature which has been so misunderstood and underutilized for so many centuries, even in India, the land of the Veda, due to historical influences of invading cultures and so forth. The significance, even the purity and effectiveness of the Vedic wisdom had been lost. Now we know today, in this scientific age, with the benefit of scientific research, that the knowledge of the Ved and the Vedic literature and the technologies of the Ved are extraordinarily effective, vital technologies for maximally successful, maximally fortune-promoting lives, including improved health, through Mahārshi Vedic medicine, the modern systematic revival of the ancient Vedic science of health, Ayurveda. How the education of the individuals can be so powerfully enhanced through the knowledge of the Ved and Vedic technologies that are designed to develop the total brain and to bestow total knowledge in the student, as opposed to the fragmented knowledge of isolated disciplines which don't develop the brain holistically, don't promote the total functioning of the brain, and really conventional education leaves about 95% of the innate capability of the human brain untapped, unutilized. With Vedic education, which, as we will see in a moment, means unified field-based education, total knowledge, literally the totality of knowledge, can be easily bestowed on anyone in seed form. And this experience and understanding of the totality of knowledge brings the total functioning of the brain, integrated brain functioning in higher states of consciousness, with absolutely unprecedented educational outcomes in every sphere of student life, student performance. So in every field, from defense to agriculture, to architecture, to healthcare, to education, the Vedic science, which is the science of total natural law, the totality of natural law, has profound benefits and powerful proven technologies to offer civilization. The global financial capital of New York, of the global country of world peace, established by Mahāārshī, founder of the global country of world peace, is designed today to spearhead these initiatives to transform knowledge in the field of education and bring far more effective and profound educational systems and benefits, to dramatically transform healthcare in the world from its current disease care approach to a healthcare approach and the effective prevention of disease and promotion of health and longevity on a scientific basis. And similarly, in defense and in agriculture, the Vedic science has been revived today, and these initiatives in every major field of society have been launched here at the financial capital of the world. This financial hub, not only of the United States, Wall Street and its environment, but really the financial capital of the world. In the very heart of this financial capital, one block from the New York Stock Exchange, is the global financial capital of New York, to uplift the whole quality and quantity of the economy, of the whole economic environment of New York, and to uplift the economy of the whole world to be more in favor of life, more effective in its promotion of wealth and prosperity for the world. As I said, one key component to enlivening the world's economy and enlivening the world's creativity and health is to improve the structure, the design, the quality of the buildings in which people live and work, in which the government resides and functions and makes key decisions that affect the people all over the world every day. The Vedic science of architecture, the most ancient and comprehensive science of building, shows how to build a building in detail to be maximally life-promoting, maximally fortune-creating, by building structures that are in harmony with the laws of nature that govern the universe. Building in harmony with natural law is to promote the life of the individual inhabitants to be in accord with natural law. A building aligned with natural law, and we'll see precisely what that means, is to align the behavior, even the very brain functioning of the inhabitants, the occupants of the building, to be aligned with natural law. And that's a very key point, and it's worth understanding. The fundamental premise of our scientific age is that the universe is governed by laws of nature, immortal and inviolable principles of nature's functioning that uphold order throughout the ever-expanding universe. Modern science identifies these mathematically derived laws of nature governing motion, governing biology, governing botany, governing planetary science and astronomy, cosmology, governing brain development and learning, governing the elementary particles and their interactions, and chemistry and atomic physics. So modern science identifies specific laws of nature that uphold the orderliness of nature everywhere. So everywhere we look in the universe today, we see orderliness. We see definite structure. And we'll talk exactly about those structures, which we can call the architecture of the universe, in these forthcoming minutes of introduction, following which we will hear from the world's greatest expert today on Mahārshi Sthapatya. That means Vedic architecture in harmony with natural law, and that's Dr. Eike Hartmann, the Minister of Global Reconstruction of the global country of world peace, who will give us tremendous practical instructions and understandings of what practically architecture in harmony with natural law means for the individual and what it means for society. And he'll share a great deal of research already establishing the profound benefits of proper building for life, for health, for productivity. So what I wanted to do is discuss this concept of architecture and life in accord with the architecture of the universe. We need to understand this principle. What is life in accord with natural law? And what is building aligned with natural law? And then we'll have the basis for understanding Vedic architecture. So first, what is life in accord with natural law? Again, the laws of nature are those orderly principles that governing the function of the universe, that uphold human health, that govern our own physiology, our digestion, our cycles of waking and sleeping. The laws of nature also govern the environment around us, terrestrial and astrophysical and cosmological on every level. So everything that happens in nature, from the motion of a particle to the digestion of food, happens in accord with natural law, happens through the functioning of specific laws of nature that uphold the motion of a particle, specific laws of nature that uphold the digestion of food, and so forth. So everything that happens in nature happens by virtue of the functioning of natural law. Everything that human beings achieve in life happens through the successful application of natural law. Technology, for example, is the application of natural law. Successful technology applies the laws of nature effectively to achieve a specific result. Human behavior that is maximally aligned with natural law is human behavior that effectively utilizes the laws of nature to accomplish anything, any desire. Action that is not in accord with natural law, action that is not aligned with natural law, is simply ineffective action. Because nothing can be achieved without the support of natural law, without engaging the laws of nature to work for us. So life in accord with natural law, human behavior aligned with natural law, is the absolute key to effective and fulfilling behavior. Human behaviors that are in accord with natural law, health behaviors and health habits that are in accord with the laws of nature that uphold health, that uphold digestion, that uphold proper human development, proper brain functioning, those behaviors are successful behaviors. Human behaviors that go against the flow of natural law will be unsuccessful behaviors that could even cause damage to one's physiology, to one's brain functioning. Life that is not aligned with natural law is simply not successful life. So if our buildings, if our physical environment can be aligned with natural law and can help induce human behavior to be so aligned, then such buildings will be a tremendous support to promote life and behavior in accord with natural law for maximally successful, maximally effective life. So there are all kinds of environments and all kinds of influences from the environment all the time. Pollution, buildings that are possibly completely disoriented or helter-skelter in their design. Such oblique and disjointed buildings disharmonious buildings can cause disorientation. We've all experienced that, and that actually shows up in the disoriented functioning of the brain, as we will see. So our environments, from the food we eat, from the pollutants in our environment, and from the proportion, the shape, the nature, and quality of our buildings is very important, absolutely vital for life in accord with natural law, maximally successful, maximally fulfilling life. So all we really need to understand is, what does it mean to have a building aligned with natural law? And we will understand the principle and importance of Maharishi Vedic architecture. In fact, according to research and according to the Vedic literature, the great expert in the world in the field of architecture, most ancient and profound knowledge, a great deal, perhaps half or more, of the problems we confront in society today, whether problems of ill health, problems of discomfort, chaos and discord in the family, chaos and discord at work, discord and disharmony in the Congress or the Parliament, much of this, even most, is induced by the improper orientation, improper proportions, improper design of the buildings in which we live. Maharishi Sthapatya is the science of orientation, science of vastu, science of placement, science of proportion, so that all the buildings in which we live and work are appropriately designed, aligned with natural law, to promote human behavior to be similarly, naturally, and spontaneously aligned with natural law. That is the basic secret, basic principle of this extraordinary science of architecture that leaves out something that has been so important but absolutely overlooked in the world until now. There is a revolution in the field of architecture, many revolutions in the field of architecture that have to do with the building materials to ensure that they are non-toxic. There's a trend towards green buildings that are human-friendly, that are environmentally friendly, but none of them so far have this knowledge of how to orient the building, proportion the building, place the building with respect to the orientation of the sun, with respect to the location of bodies of water, and so forth, all about which we will hear. Without such knowledge, all the care and expense that goes into building new buildings that are greener, that are non-toxic from the standpoint of pollutants, all of that, I would say, is largely wasted. Because even a building that is designed to be environmentally friendly and non-toxic, if it's disorienting, if it causes chaos, if it disaligns life with natural law so that behaviors are unnatural and not naturally aligned with the flow of natural law, such buildings will be health defeating and will not be conducive, not be supportive to the accomplishment of any desire, will not be conducive to the proper functioning of the brain, which is at the basis of creativity and intelligence. So we need to understand what architecture is aligned with natural law and this Vedic science of architecture of how to proportion every aspect of a building to be maximally conducive to life, whether it's sleep at night or digestion during the midday or work for maximum productivity and coherence and intelligence, or even entertainment for maximum ease and comfort. All of this is taken into account in a properly designed home and building, school, hospital, government building, as we will see. So I wanted to take just a few moments before introducing the world's greatest expert in this Maharishi Vedic architecture in harmony with natural law to just explain a few points about what it would mean to have a home or any building aligned with natural law, and thereby a building that supports life in accord with natural law for freedom from problems and maximum success, health, and happiness in life. Well, to understand what it means to have a home aligned with natural law, a home aligned with the architecture of the universe, we need to understand the architecture of the universe, which is extremely simple, actually, because the architecture of the universe can be discerned from its blueprint. We're going to take a quick look at the blueprint of the universe as revealed by modern objective science, particularly in the context of the most advanced field of modern science, unified quantum field theory. Modern physics has explored systematically deeper levels of the functioning of nature, deeper levels of nature's architecture, the structure of natural law at fundamental scales. And this chart shows the systematic unfoldment of natural law and the exploration of natural law by modern science. Modern science has revealed that the universe is structured in layers of creation, from superficially diverse to fundamentally unified. This chart shows the sequential unfoldment of the laws of nature from fundamental unity at the foundation of this chart to surface diversity of the laws of nature shown at the top of this chart at macroscopic scales, and the history of physics, which has been quite the reverse, to begin at the obvious macroscopic level of classical physics at the top of this chart, characterized by the diversity of natural law, and then probing systematically more fundamental space-time scales, finer time and distance scales at the molecular, atomic, nuclear, and subnuclear levels. This chart shows the sequential progression of modern science from superficial diversity to fundamental unity, and marks the milestones in the exploration of more fundamental, unified levels of natural law, with, for example, the discovery of the electroweak unified field at the lower left of this chart, for which Nobel Prizes were awarded, leading subsequently to the establishment of grand unified theories of the strong, weak, and electromagnetic forces, culminating in the recent discovery of the unified field, the so-called E8 cross E8 heterotic superstring field, which is represented at the bottom of this chart as the absolute unity of all the fundamental forces and particles that fill the universe, a complete unification of all the laws of nature in one fundamental law of self-interacting dynamics of unity at the basis of all diversity. And this one fundamental law of self-interacting dynamics of unity is the foundation of all the laws of nature. It's the unified fountainhead from which all the laws of nature sequentially unfold through the sequential process of symmetry breaking that we had seen on the chart. It is therefore aptly called the constitution of the universe, this fundamental law of self-interacting dynamics of unity at the basis of all diversity. Constitution of the universe means the foundational level of natural law, because all the laws of nature derive from that level. Just as in any country, we have a constitution. The constitution, while man-made, is still the basic level of the law of the land, the fundamental level of national law from which all the other laws of the land are derived. Similarly, nature has a constitution, the foundational level of natural law, which is the self-interacting dynamics of unity at the basis of all diversity. That fundamental law, in the language of modern physics, is called the Lagrangian of the superstring, which is this compact superformula shown at the top of this chart, which is the most compact expression of the totality of natural law, the constitution of the universe, in the language of quantum field theory. And this language shows unity in terms of the unification of various components, so-called bosonic and fermionic components. We'll go back to the preceding chart. In the language of modern physics, this unity is described as the unification of all the different laws of nature, the different components, in one unified wholeness. So we see the laws governing the particles of nature, the so-called Fermi fields on the right, and the laws governing the Bose fields or force fields of nature on the left. These laws of nature and the particles and forces that they govern are united in this one indivisible wholeness with its one super formula shown at the top again, which is the self-interacting dynamics of unity, the constitution of the universe, the fountainhead of all the laws of nature governing the universe. Well, the same constitution of the universe, the fountainhead of natural law, as we saw, is the source of all the order displayed throughout the universe. The entire structure of the universe, the structure of the galaxies, the structure of a solar system with its planar orbits, its elliptical orbits among a common plane, the structure of the elementary particles, as we will see. The whole geometry of the universe unfolds from that unified level. And therefore we can call, if we wish, this constitution of the universe, the foundational level of natural law, it's also the blueprint of the universe, the blueprint of creation. Because the structure of the universe, even the physical structure of the particles and forces, the physical structure of the planets and stars, all of that geometry, all of that cosmic architecture emerges from there. So the constitution of the universe, as we see from this chart, it has a structure of self-interacting dynamics of unity. We will explore that structure in subsequent slides, and we'll see that from this fundamental structure, from this blueprint of the universe, the structure of self-interacting dynamics of unity, all other structures derive. Even the macroscopic structure of the planets and stars in the universe as a whole emerge as the inevitable consequence of the structure of this blueprint of the universe. So it truly is, the constitution of the universe is truly the blueprint of creation. And exploring that blueprint will reveal to us the basic geometry of the universe, upon which the whole universe and everything in it is based. First, I wanted to point out in this same slide how the diversified laws of nature governing the universe emerge from this fundamental constitution of the universe, and they emerge through the process of self-interacting, the self-interacting dynamics of unity, which leads to what is called an apparent breaking of symmetry. An apparent breaking of symmetry through which the fundamental wholeness of natural law, which is unity, one without a second, how this fundamental wholeness of natural law interacting with itself brings out its diversified components into the myriad structures of the universe. This chart shows that the first step in the sequential emergence of creation is the emergence of what's called n equals 1 supergravity, followed by n equals 1 supersymmetric grand unified field theories that are shown in the sequentially more elaborated and complex equations that unfold rigorously from the fundamental unity of the unified field. So this is just a mathematical description of what we saw previously here, that the laws of nature sequentially unfold from the constitution of the universe in a rigorous, mathematically precise way. So the whole universe reflects the fundamental structure, the fundamental architecture of the unified field. The constitution of the universe is therefore the blueprint of the universe. By understanding the symmetry, the structure of unity, we will understand the symmetry and structure of diversity. So let us look at this very quickly, but in a bit more detail. Let's look again at the constitution of the universe as described by the mathematics of quantum field theory. And we see that there is a Lagrangian, compact mathematical expression of the structure and dynamics of unity. But this unity is in terms of 8 unified components. And these unified components, in the language of modern physics, are the so-called 8 bosonic degrees of freedom of the superstring. The 8 internal vibrational degrees of freedom of the superstring. And this structure of 8 and all possible combinations and relationships of those 8 is a very precisely described mathematical symmetry group called E8, the exceptional group E8. All possible relationships among the fundamental 8. And actually, if we look at this equation again, the full symmetry of the unified field, according to modern physics, is E8 cross E8. E8 cross E8 is, in a sense, a doubling of the symmetry of E8, because in reality, there are not only 8 bosonic degrees of freedom of the unified field, but there are also 8 fermionic degrees of freedom of the unified field. And a fermionic degree of freedom is similar to a bosonic degree of freedom, but unmanifest. That means the vibrational excursions, that means the amplitude of the reverberation of the superstring, the reverberation of the unified field, fermionically is always infinitesimal, too small to see. That's because it's called a Grassmann-valued oscillation, and Grassmann variables are 0 in magnitude. So the unified field has the ability to reverberate within itself bosonically. These are actual audible vibrations from the standpoint of physics, and inaudible. The inaudible, really, we could consider to be the gaps between the audible syllables. So again, in the language of modern science, these are the 8 bosonic and 8 fermionic vibrational degrees of freedom of the unified field, giving rise to the symmetry group E8, all possible relationships among the 8 bosonic degrees of freedom plus E8, all possible relationships among the fundamental 8 fermionic degrees of freedom. And that we see again, if we can look again at this next slide, the structure of those 8 are more specifically revealed in this slightly more explicit formulation of the Lagrangian of the superstring, shown at the bottom of this slide, where if you can count carefully, you will see 8 bosonic degrees of freedom and 8 gaps between those bosonic vibrational degrees of freedom. At this point, I would like to introduce something really extraordinary, and that is in the Vedic science of Mahāaarshī, this very same architecture of the constitution of the universe has been revealed with absolute clarity and extremely explicit. Mahāārshi's Vedic science is the modern scientific revival of the ancient Vedic science, the science of the unified field, which we will see is the science of consciousness, because the qualities of the unified field unambiguously establish that field as a field of consciousness. So the Vedic science is the science of unity, the science of consciousness, the science of the unified field. And indeed, the word Veda means pertaining to knowledge, but not scattered, fragmented, isolated knowledge. The word Vedic means pertaining to total knowledge, the wholeness of knowledge. So Vedic science gives the knowledge of unity. And not just the knowledge of unity, but the mechanics of self-interaction, through which unity gives rise to surface diversity. And this is the extraordinary nature of the Ved and Vedic literature, which Mahāaarshī has made extremely clear, once again in this scientific age, that the Veda, particularly the Rig Veda, which is the cornerstone of the Vedic literature, the foundational aspect of the Vedic literature, the Rig Veda is merely the record of the sounds of the unified field, reverberating within itself, and the mechanics of that self-interacting dynamics of unity, self-interacting dynamics of consciousness, through which this fundamental unity, represented indeed by the very first syllable of the Veda, Ah. Ah represents, as Mahāaarshī will explain, the totality of speech. It's the first letter of every alphabet for a reason. The word Ah, which represents the wide open speech, Ah, captures the totality of all speech. Within Ah, one can recognize the careful linguistic scrutiny. E, U, all the vowels, swaras, are contained in Ah. All the consonants even are modulations of Ah. So the whole of speech is contained in Ah, the first syllable of the Rig Veda. But the Rig Veda subsequently unfolds in a sequence of sounds and silence, syllables and gaps, Ah, Ni, Mi, Le, Pu, Ro, Hi, Tam, etc. And those first 8 sounds of the Veda and the gaps between those sounds represent, in the Vedic language, in what's called the Apaurushaya Bhashya of the Veda. That means eternal, uncreated commentary of the Veda, because this is not a man-made commentary. As we'll see, this is built into the Veda itself. This is really Veda consciousness knowing itself. It's uncreated by anybody, just as the superstring unified field of physics is uncreated by anybody. Human beings can know it. Human beings can express it. Human beings can formulate it in their equations, but the unified field is nitya apaurushaya. It's eternal, uncreated, as the Ved is nitya apaurushaya. So the Ved is the unified field in the self-interacting dynamics of the unified field, which begins in its completely unified, structureless state, but yet within that structure is contained the seed of diversity. Just as in the unified field of modern physics, the unified field is a unified field, but contains within it the seed of diversity. The 8 vibrational modes of the superstring, which lead to the elementary particles and forces, and so forth. The whole universe emerges like a tree from a seed. We've seen in modern science the unified field as that structure of one, within which 8 vibrational modes can be discerned. 8 bosonic, 8 fermionic, 8 sounds, 8 gaps. But in this very same slide now, we will see the structure of the Rig Veda unfolding from A to Agnimale Purohitam and so forth. In this first sequence of 8 syllables, in direct analogy to the Lagrangian of the superstring, is itself a complete formulation of the unified field, the self-interacting dynamics of unity in 8-fold form. You could call this an 8-syllable expression of total natural law, an 8-syllable version of the constitution of the universe, if you will. But the Veda unfolds further from there, sequentially to produce the infinite diversity of the universe. From 8 comes 24. These are the first 24 syllables, called the first Richa of the first Sukta of the Rig Veda. Another, more elaborated structure of total knowledge. Another elaborated form of the constitution of the universe. And from there to 64, from there to 192, and from there the whole Veda unfolds, systematically, sequentially, just as we have seen in modern science. And if you look precisely, we will see that these are not qualitatively similar descriptions. These are quantitatively precise, identical descriptions. From the 8 in the Vedic sounds come the 24, come the 64, and so forth. Same with the superstring. We've seen the most compact formulation of the superstring, again shown here, as the 8 vibrational modes, 8 fermionic and bosonic vibrational degrees of freedom of the superstring in 10 dimensions. But the next more elaborated expression of total knowledge in the language of superstring theory is the bosonic formulation of the superstring in 26 dimensions, which has not 8 but 24 sounds, 24 fundamental bosonic degrees of freedom. The next most elaborated structure of total knowledge in the language of the superstring is the free fermionic formulation of string in D equals 4. This is in terms of not 24 now, but 64 fundamental fermionic degrees of freedom. So those numbers of 1, 8, 24, 64, etc. are identical in the modern scientific and eternal Vedic scientific formulations. The Vedic formulation, of course, is in terms of sound and the direct experience of those sounds as one knows the Veda. One experiences unity of consciousness and the mechanics of self-interaction through which unity sequentially unfolds the increasing complexity of the universe. In the language of modern physics, we simply call that sequential, dynamic, spontaneous symmetry breaking. So now we have seen the blueprint of the universe, the structure of the constitution of the universe from both standpoints, modern and Vedic. And we see that structure, the blueprint of the universe, the architecture of the constitution of the universe to be the same. And before I move on now through the practical application of this, I wanted to just show you the exquisite structure of the constitution of the universe, the nature of this eightfold internal symmetry called E8, as shown here. The full symmetry of 8 is far too elaborate to draw in any two-dimensional surface like this. So what we see here is really just the two-dimensional shadow of an 8-dimensional geometrical structure called a Gaussic polytope 421. But what we see here, whatever you call it, is just a reflection, a glimpse of the extraordinary symmetry of the self-interacting dynamics of unity, extraordinary architecture of the constitution of the universe, as revealed by both modern science and the ancient Vedic science. What an exquisite architecture to discover at the basis of the architecture of the universe. Absolutely extraordinary is the internal richness, I'd say infinite is the internal richness of the constitution of the universe, from which all architectures, all geometry of the universe sequentially unfolds. Now that we have discovered and explored the architecture of unity, the constitution of the universe, let us now consider very briefly its unfolding structure into the architecture that we see surrounding us in the universe, and how it emerges systematically from the constitution of the universe. Well, firstly, this chart shows that this fundamental symmetry that we just saw graphically portrayed, the symmetry of E8 cross E8, the internal symmetry of unity interacting with itself, that structure, that architecture, first gives rise to the emergence of a subgroup of itself called E6, the exceptional group E6, multiplied by, or we could simply say combined with, the external symmetries of space. Okay, these are called, the primordial symmetry gives rise to a dual, a pair of symmetries. E6 on the one hand is called the internal symmetry group, and it will describe for us the structure of the elementary particles and forces of nature. The second part of the symmetry that emerges from the constitution of the universe are the external symmetries of space and time. So mathematically we say E8 cross E8 breaks to E6 cross SO3, 1. It gives rise to the internal symmetries of the elementary particles and the external symmetries of space. This symmetry of the elementary particles, so-called E6, is a so-called grand unifying group which subsequently fractures through well-known mechanisms to the separate symmetries of the strong, weak, and electromagnetic forces, as shown in the same slide, bottom half. The grand unified symmetry E6, which is nothing but a fragment of the primordial symmetry E8 cross E8, itself fragments into the superficially diverse symmetry groups SU3 cross SU2 cross U1, which describe the internal symmetries of the nuclear force, the radioactive force, and the electromagnetic force. It's these internal particle symmetries that give the elementary particles of the universe, and the protons and neutrons and so forth, their remarkable, very precise geometric structure of relationships. That means the elementary particles of the universe are not haphazard, they're not random. It's been long known, and for a long time very mysterious, to see that the elementary particles actually exist in precise relationships to each other. There's a rather mysterious symmetry that relates the elementary particles, such as this example. This is called the eightfold way. This is the symmetry of the nuclear force, SU3. And it shows, for example, the familiar proton and the familiar neutron graphed alongside the somewhat less familiar sigma minus, sigma 0, sigma plus, lambda, cascade minus, cascade 0, and all these 8 fundamental baryons exist, if we can see it again, in precise geometric relationship to each other. If we plot the electric charge of these particles on a vertical axis, and the strangeness, so-called, or hypercharge of these particles on a horizontal axis, these elementary particles fall into these very precise geometric structures, like the hexagon shown here. Or another example, the so-called baryon decamet, the deltas, the sigmas, the cascades, and the omega plotted with respect to their electric charge and strangeness, fall into precisely these mathematical symmetry groups, like the isosceles triangle shown here. So all the elementary particles of nature are not existing in some haphazard random way. They exist with very precise properties that exist in very precise geometrical relationships to each other. There is a geometry. There's an architecture to the elementary particles. And that architecture to the elementary particles is a reflection of the fundamental architecture of the universe, the blueprint of the universe, or the self-interacting dynamics of the constitution of the universe. Next, as we emerge from unmanifest to the manifest macroscopic universe, the next distance scale we'll consider is the human scale. We'll go from elementary to human to galactic. So the intermediate scale we wanted to take a look at is the human nervous system, human physiology. And here again, in the human physiology, is an architecture, the cosmic architecture, the architecture of the constitution of the universe, which means that the blueprint of creation is reflected directly in the structure of the human brain and central nervous system. This, by the way, is one tiny fragment of the extraordinary scientific work of Maharaja Nararam, first ruler of the global country of world peace, crowned such because of his extraordinary scientific discovery of total natural law, the constitution of the universe, the Veda, reflected in the human physiology, that the whole body mirrors the structure of the constitution of the universe. This human structure is a cosmic structure. It is an embodiment of the geometry of the universe. So that the structure of the self-interacting dynamics of unity in the constitution of the universe is perfectly mirrored in the very structure of the neurons of the brain. In all the other organs, even the human DNA mirrors the same cosmic structure, which means human beings are really a living, breathing embodiment of total natural law. We carry within us the architecture of the universe, the infinite organizing power of the laws of nature that uphold the whole universe are within us. So this chart shows specifically the 192 nerve endings or ascending and descending reticular formations of the central nervous system, mirroring the 192 fermionic vibrational degrees of freedom of the superstring, or similarly mirroring the 192 vibrational sounds or syllables of the first sukta of the Rig Veda. So the 192 syllable structure of the constitution of the universe from Vedic science and modern science perfectly reflected in the 192-fold structure of the human brain and central nervous system. And like that, Maharaja Nararam has identified the same universal geometry, the architecture of the universe pervading every aspect of the human physiology. So, we have discovered the architecture of the universe, the constitution of the universe mirrored in the geometry of the elementary particles, and mirrored now also in the architecture, the geometry of the human being. Finally, on the macroscopic level, perhaps most relevant to today's architectural discussion, on the level of the planets and the stars, we see from this equation at the very top that the fundamental symmetry of the unified field leads to the emergence of the so-called external symmetry group we mentioned before, SO3, 1, the Lorentz group, the symmetry of external space and time. In its non-relativistic limit of slowly moving particles compared to the speed of light, which is pertinent, for example, to the solar system, that Lorentz group breaks to the simple rotation group SO3, and the rotation group SO3 is a mathematical simple description of the symmetries of space. The fact that the space is the same, independent of direction. It doesn't matter whether we're facing this direction in space or that direction in space. The behaviors we observe, the laws of nature we observe will be identical. The laws of nature are invariant with respect to rotations. That means are unmindful of the directionality in space. Well, this rotational symmetry of space, so-called SO3, is responsible for the architecture of the solar system. In other words, this SO3, which comes from the unified field, the blueprint of the universe, the self-interacting dynamics of unity, the constitution of the universe, the SO3 rotational symmetry comes from there. And the SO3 rotational symmetry is the external symmetries of space. And as this chart shows, the elliptical planar orbits of the planets in our solar system is a direct and inevitable reflection of the symmetries of space. That is, the geometry of the solar system, the architecture of the solar system, derives from and reflects the architecture of the constitution of the universe. More specifically, let's look at our own Earth-Sun system. And we see here, not drawn to scale, the Earth orbiting the Sun in a planar elliptical orbit. Also, because the Earth is slightly tilted, just slightly, the axis of rotation of the Earth, very slightly tilted with respect to the plane of the orbit of the Earth about the Sun, we have the cycle not only of day and night, we also have the cycle of the seasons of the year. The summer, fall, winter, spring, all of this, which directly, of course, impacts life on Earth very fundamentally, all of this reflects the geometry of our solar system, and particularly the geometry of the Earth-Sun orbit. Or as this next chart shows, the cycle of months of the year, and the lunar nodes, and the orbit of the moon. All of this, and its impact on life, the full moon and the new moon, its influence upon the tides. All of this reflects the geometry of the universe. All of these geometrical aspects of our solar environment, of our solar system, all of these are simply reflections of the constitution of the universe. The geometry of self-interacting dynamics of unity reflected in the outer geometry of space and the orbit of the Earth about the Sun, and the cycle of the seasons, in the orbit of the Moon about the Earth, in an approximately coplanar orbit, the geometry of our stellar environment, the geometry of our planetary environment, the geometry of our lunar environment, all reflects the SO3 rotational symmetry of space, all of which is a direct reflection of the architecture of the universe and derives from the constitution of the universe. So what does this mean? What is the practical application of this? It means that architecture, the building of a home, building of a building, architecture that is aligned with the Earth and the Sun is architecture aligned with the constitution of the universe. Architecture aligned with the Earth and the orbital axis of the Sun, that means to the east and to the north, is architecture aligned with total natural law, the constitution of the universe. What an extraordinary formula! What an extraordinary discovery! That to build in harmony with natural law, buildings aligned with natural law, to promote life in accord with natural law, are buildings aligned to the east, to the orbital plane of the Sun, or aligned to the north, to the rotational axis of the Earth. That and so much more of the detailed applications of that fundamental knowledge is contained in Mahāarshi's Sthapatya Ved. Mahārshi Vedic architecture means architecture of the unified field. Unified field-based architecture. Architecture based on the blueprint of the universe. Architecture that derives from the constitution of the universe, total natural law, to promote life aligned with natural law. Now, the research on this is already extraordinary, not even just from the standpoint of modern science in the last 20, 30 years, but throughout the long history of time, because what we're talking about here, while ultra-modern from this standpoint, is also eternal. For centuries in the ancient civilizations, Vedic civilizations, this was the standard of architecture, nothing less. Architecture, homes, buildings, government buildings, all had to be properly aligned with natural law to promote life in accord with natural law by the inhabitants of the buildings. And the long record of success, health, and happiness and achievement of these civilizations records the importance of this great architectural discovery. Now, modern research also is giving a testimony to the extraordinary importance of properly aligned building. And this study here is just one example. We now know that when the human brain, when the individual is facing east, there's a different pattern of neuronal firing in the brain from when, for example, the individual is facing west or south, inauspicious directions, compared to the auspicious direction of east. And this research shows increased orderliness of brain functioning. That means EEG coherence, where different areas of the brain and the firing of the neurons associated with different areas of the brain, different areas of the mind and personality, are functioning in synchrony, in an integrated way, in a coherent way. But when that very same subject turns to face south, the orderliness of brain functioning is largely lost. So even the orderliness of the firing of the brain, which means the orderliness of thinking, orderliness of the functioning of the brain, depends upon the orientation and the direction one is facing. That by itself is already of extraordinary importance because extensive research shown here confirms that orderly brain functioning, that means the synchronous firing of neurons, is scientifically correlated with rising intelligence, with creativity, with learning ability, memory, with academic performance, with moral reasoning, psychological stability, emotional maturity, happiness, alertness, reaction time. Everything good about the brain depends on its orderly functioning. And now we have a technology so simple to promote the orderly functioning of the brain. It is as simple as living in a home where that is naturally oriented east, and where the rooms within the home, even the desks within the home, the offices within the home, the beds within the home, the dining table, etc., is properly oriented towards the east, towards the north, in some cases towards the south. But the orientation along the cardinal axis is key, and the house itself should face east for maximum life-supporting benefit from the sun, or secondarily, north is acceptable, which is also aligned with natural law, in this case, aligned with the orbital rotations of the Earth. So all of this, of course, could sound enormously complicated, but it has been systematized and made remarkably simple and systematic in Mahāārshi Vedic architecture, modern scientific revival of the ancient Vedic science of architecture. And in a moment or two, Dr. Eike Hartmann will reveal to us the remarkable secrets of building in accord with natural law and how one can engage experts to achieve this easily for oneself, builders that are schooled in Mahāārshi Vedic architecture, so that one can enjoy maximum productivity at work, maximum productivity at the dinner table where digestion is important, maximum sound quality of sleep, greatest happiness and harmony among family members, improved health and vitality of the occupants of the building, as opposed to the very, very deleterious effects on brain functioning, coherence, creativity, intelligence, health, harmonious relationships that results, for example, when a building is oriented to the south or to the west. All of this richness of knowledge, orientation, proportion, etc., rendered systematic and simple through the science of Mahāārshi Vedic architecture. So we'll be talking about that at great length with the great experts of Vedic architecture, but it is my understanding now that Mahārshi Mahesh Yogi is available to offer his introductory insights into the science of architecture in harmony with natural law. Mahārshi, of course, is the foremost Vedic scholar of our age and greatest scientist of consciousness, who has revived the Vedic wisdom in its completeness along with its practical technologies, including, as we've talked about in many of our conferences, transcendental meditation, the TM City program, yogic flying, to align individual behavior, individual mind with cosmic mind, and programs in the field of health, defense, the economy, and so forth. Maharshi's revival of the Vedic wisdom is comprehensive and complete, and more profound and complete than any other revival of the Vedic wisdom in the long-known recorded history of civilizations. Maharshi Mahesh Yogi is currently launching through the global financial capital of New York a global reconstruction program. And the global reconstruction program is to immediately bring the benefits of properly oriented houses and buildings in harmony with natural law to the 6 billion citizens of our world. Beginning with government buildings, for example, which are so indispensable, so crucial, because these elected representatives of the people are forced to make decisions that affect the lives of everyone, that affect issues of war and peace, that affect issues of health and education. But these decisions are being made today in inappropriate, inauspicious, improperly oriented and proportioned buildings, resulting in tremendous conflict within governments, chaos within governments, not comprehensive long-range thinking in governments, but narrowly short-sighted thinking, with the inability, with the lack of global EEG coherence, which means lack of expanded comprehension, the inability of governments to think expansively and take into account the global concerns of all of the citizens of their country and indeed the citizens of the world. Such thinking in government is absent today, in part because the buildings in which governments work and reside are not aligned with natural law and are not naturally conducive to thinking and acting in accord with natural law. So Maharshi has launched an extraordinarily compassionate and extraordinarily ambitious campaign. Let us eliminate in a single stroke more than half of the problems of the world and prevent new problems from arising just by improving the quality of the homes and buildings in which everyone lives and works. But Maharshi is so brilliant about this because it really doesn't cost anything to do this, because new buildings, new homes, new hospitals, new schools are being built all the time anyway. All we need now is knowledge, the Vedic knowledge of architecture, to build them properly. Yes, they can be green, should be non-toxic. All those things that modern science has contributed to the field of architecture. Most importantly, though, they should be properly aligned, properly proportioned, in accord with natural law, to bring, and this is most important, the life, the thinking, the behavior of the people into accord with natural law for maximally successful, maximally healthy, maximally fulfilling life. So Maharshi has conceived and designed an extraordinary plan, and it'll be inevitable as the buildings are being built all the time anyway. Our goal, our desire, of course, is to accelerate the implementation, accelerate the transformation of global architecture by inviting the financiers of the world, the great investment banks, to accelerate the building of new homes and hospitals through investment, which of course will return a good return because housing is profitable, hospitals are profitable, building is profitable. So let's everyone, all the builders, profit now by engaging in this project to rebuild the world as quickly as possible. Homes, cities, offices, schools. This is the scope of Maharshi's vision, always global, always acting for the welfare of the entire world, and always acting on the basis of the total knowledge of natural law, the constitution of the universe from the profound eternal Vedic wisdom, and corroborated today by the most modern developments of unified field theory in physics. So modern science confirms it. Ancient science has known it. Empirical research also confirms it. And the experience of people all over the world living today in Maharshi's Tapachived buildings also confirms it, that everyone should move immediately into a fortune-promoting home and abandon the fortune-destroying homes that are pervasive in the world today. So if Maharshi is indeed available, it is a great joy at this point to introduce the chief architect of Vedic architecture in the world today, who's revived the Vedic science of architecture with the great Sthapati Ved scholars of the world, like Dr. Eike Hartman, from whom we will hear shortly, and are thereby bringing the blessings of building in harmony with natural law to people all over the world. Jai Gurudev Mahārshi, are you with us?
Yes, Dr. Hagelin, I was listening. I was busy designing the European capital of invincibility with Colonel Chessy and our great master builder Christian, and I was listening to you, and I will only say in my message, I am reminded of a proverb, the taste of pudding is in eating, period. We cannot describe what is indescribable. And what is indescribable is the benefit of vastu structured buildings, Sthapatya-ved buildings. I am living in the Sthapatya-ved building, and what I feel is that the walls of the house, they don't produce a cage for me. I don't feel I'm living inside the walls. The walls are as transparent as is the meaning of cosmic living. Cosmic living. Cosmic living. You don't feel you are crammed by the walls. I have been throughout all my life, 40 years, living wherever I went, living whosoever kept me as his guest and all. And always I was feeling I am caged in within these walls. I am caged in within these walls. And ever since they gave me this house to live in, I am not feeling restricted. This is cosmic living. That's what I say when Dr. Hagelin is emphasizing so emphatically that immediately the builders should take to build these vastu homes. Then I am reminded to say that the taste of pudding is in eating. All those people who are capable of living in a vastu house, builders of the world, small builders or big builders, you are building already, but stop building ordinary homes as you have been building. It will cost the same thing. It doesn't cost much to properly orient the house. It will cost the same thing, but you will be blessing the buyers of your homes. I am addressing to the builders. You will be giving fortune creating homes instead of dumping their fortune into limitations. This is the time we are raising the national consciousness of every country to a high level of invincibility, and our invincibility matches with cosmic magnitude, integrated as the constitution of the universe. It's eternally expanding, but one doesn't know that the universe is expanding. It's nothing of show. It's nothing of show. It's everything of being, 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 being. So follow the advice of a scientist and follow my advice that throughout my life I have been caged in, and ever since all these 10, 15 years I am here in this house, my thinking is absolutely unrestricted. And Dr. Hagelin is one person who knows my thinking, because he experiences himself what unified field is, completely unrestricted. And therefore, he is the one great man of the world who can advise the people of living in a house which will not limit the personality of the house. It's like the same thing. An ignorant man who is so bound by the boundaries of space and time, his whole body is bound in. He is only the master of 5 hectares of land. He is a farmer, very limited, very limited, very limited. But someone who owns 100,000 hectares of land, he has a bigger body, body of the two persons owning 5 hectares of land, owning 5,000 hectares of land. Body are the same body, but one is much bigger, the other is much smaller. The effect of Vastu, is a different thing. And by whom the Vastu has been projected? By whom the Vastu has been projected? Vastu building, this architecture of Sthapatya Veda, who has projected it? Constitution of the universe, Ved. It's a part of Vedic design. And what is Vedic design? Ever-expanding universe. Is no limit to the expansion of the universe. And then the universe goes on and on and on and on. Like that, the family, I'm alone, I know myself that the walls, I'm living within the walls, but the walls are transparent for me. That's the experience. I'm very afraid to go to any house. I never feel to go because I will be caged in. Such freedom, such abundance, such enormous authority over space and time, such reality of living in cosmic magnitude. This is living in Vastu buildings. So the builders of the world listen to the talk that Dr. Hagelin has just spoken for you, and for all time builders in the world. Still the world is structured in terms of heaven. The Devatas living in heaven, the administrators of the universe living in heaven, and living in heaven, they are able to administer the universe without restriction, because they are living in Sthapatya Ved. They are ordained to live in the Sthapatya Ved. The Sthapatya Ved is that section of the constitution of the universe. Ved is the constitution of the universe, and Sthapatya Ved is the law of stabilizing, the law that stabilizes, the law that stabilizes individuality in terms of his cosmic status. It's such a thing. It's beyond speech. It's beyond speech. It's beyond speech. Therefore, a new world will be lived in by the same people. And what they will be? They will never be sick. They will never be shrouded with small things. There will be peace, unbounded, prosperity, unlimited, coherence, unimaginable. This is Vastu living, Vastu living. Living in Vastu. It's a very great gift, very great timely call to the builders of the world to rebuild, reconstruct the world. Our world movement has a program to reconstruct the world. We are inviting the builders of the world to build heaven on earth. To build, it will be heaven on earth. It will be heaven. It will be the same bricks and the same wood and the same marble stones with which the walls and the ceilings will be built. But just the orientation, that's the architecturing, just laying out this building according to proper directions of east, west and all that. That makes a big difference between, a captive is also given a house. And a captive is given a house. He is not allowed to go in. He has those walls. Walls are hell for him. But that is his experience. He is living within these walls. But walls are a hell for him. And one who is a free person, living in a Vastu building, he is living within the walls, but walls don't obstruct his cosmic existence to be lived by him in his daily living within the house. It's a different thing. And I was feeling the jerks and jolts with which Dr. Hagelin was forcefully inviting the builders of the world, that they are building, the profession is to build. Why build hell for the people? Build heaven. So all the builders of the world owe their gratitude to the greatest scientist of the world, who is advising them to build on the scientific level that he is teaching to the builders the technology of building. The technology of building is go to the constitution of the universe, take from the Vedic literature what the law says, how to build, how to build, how to build. The law says the house should face the sun. Everyone knows sun is the giver of health. Sun is the giver of health. The housing facing the sun, facing the east, are healthy. That's all. Simple. Morning sun, evening sun. Enter the door. It's healthy. Morning rays of the sun are healthy. They are healthy. They are healthy. Just the orientation. Just the orientation. Just the orientation. And those who are living in the in the south or in the west, facing entrances, they should verify in their family the children are sick and the mothers are crying all the time and there fight in the family, all kinds of misfortunes. You can verify, you don't have to ask anyone. You don't have to ask those who are living with the entrance in the west or south. They should see how sick is their family. Don't ask anyone. Examine your own value. Examine your own value. I am giving you an acid test. You can see how is your family. Peaceful, harmonious, healthy, wealthy, and wise in every way. And then you will see that you are living in proper oriented house. If you are living in a wrong house, you will find you don't have to ask any architecture. You know from yourself. Now you can verify whether you are living in hell or heaven. Everyone is living anyway. And those people who are living in the southern house immediately get out of it. Think that this earthquake has demolished the walls and you can't live. What you will do next hour? You will find some house. Like that you think. Like that you think that the house is no more capable or worthy of your being your house. Get out of your house. Or if you like, choose your house to be a wrong house, continue to be sick, continue to be worried, continue to be inadequate, continue to fight with your friends. You have a choice. You have a choice. You can have your cosmic potential as a living reality if you live in a proper house, or if you continue to live in bad fortune. Choice is yours. We can only say, you hear, you see, you live the way you like. And what I will remind again, the taste of pudding is only eating the pudding. About the test, don't ask anyone. You see yourself. You see in the village or a town, one street. It goes north-south. One side of the street, the children are healthy, happy. On the other side, which is facing west, everything will be unfavorable to live. Your destiny is in your hands. And here is a certificate of your destiny. Look to your house. We are saying so emphatically because we have the experience. I have the experience of all these 80, 90 years of life living in wrong places. But somehow, through the grace of Gurudev, I never jolted from my purpose of life. The purpose of life was to be fully enlightened. So that was inside. That was very strong. And I was not living permanently in one place, 2 days in some place, 15 days in some place, 1 month somewhere, like that. But ever since I came to this house, the house never left me. Because it's the same thing. If one begins to live one's cosmic status, one can't live oneself. One can't stoop down to individual status. So my experience is different, but your own experience I was asking you. Measure your experience and measure the experience of your neighbor and see those who are living on the other side of the street. Absolutely go by the wisest man in the world and doctor. You will not find any man greater well-wisher of humankind than Dr. Hagelin. He found the total natural law. He found the unified field. Now he is out with all the arguments for everyone to enjoy maximum from this knowledge. So Vastu house is an aspect of the knowledge of total natural law. It is promoted by the constitution of the universe. It is promoted by the will of God, who is responsible for creation. Time of our speaking is over. I would only say the taste of pudding is in eating. All life long I have the experience. Those who heard and followed the words, they are better off today, they'll be all better off for whole of their life. We have no other interest except we want to see the people healthy, happy and prosperous. I want to see every nation invincible, and I'm going to make it. I'm going to make every nation invincible. Look to the program. That all these ancient dignity of administration. Very famous rule of Raja Ram, which is cherished by all the old family in this ruling dynasties of the world. Ram, Ram. There is a record in the Vedic literature. Ram, Raj, Duktahu, the Vyapar. Ram, the suffering belonged to no one in the reign of Ram. With the grace of Gurudev, the reign of Ram is going to be a revived reality of the world. With all these great leaders of the movement like Dr. Hagelin, and he has his colleagues around him, all are absolutely bright, shining, sunshine. Each is a star of Bethlehem. So go by their advice. My time of talking is coming to an end. Time is coming for being, eternal being, eternal being. So Dr. Hegel, take your listeners and tell them how fortunate they are. Jai Gurudev. All glory to Gurudev. All glory to the Vedic tradition, the tradition of the constitution of the universe. Perfect constitution for everything, for anything that one would ever want to do. All glory to Gurudev. All glory to Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev. Thank you very much, Maharshi, for this extraordinary blast of Brahmanan bliss of total knowledge, and for making this discussion of research and principles so concrete, bringing it home with this critical and well-known expression, the taste of the pudding is in the eating. Maharshi gave direct experience of living so many years, as most of us also, of course, do, in improperly oriented homes. And he gave this direct experience now based on the contrast of that from living in proper vastu that somehow came to Maharshi some years ago, that living in an improperly oriented home was like being in a cage. That the walls that are obliquely oriented, not oriented to the sun, were just like a cage, and they constrain the awareness, and they block the awareness, and they confine and constrict and restrict the personality and thinking. And in comparison to that, Maharshi explained, living in properly oriented, properly proportioned vastu home, it's as though the walls, fully aligned with natural law, were as if transparent, didn't block the vision, didn't block, constrain the thinking, didn't restrict the personality, because, Maharshi explained, architecture in harmony with natural law is architecture in harmony with the design of the universe, which is infinite and ever-expanding without boundaries. So architecture aligned with natural law, Maharshi Stapatya Vedic architecture, Vastu Vidya, is architecture where the building itself is designed according to cosmic architecture, not to be a narrowly restrictive block, not to be a cage. And so Maharshi said again, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. Ask yourself what the experience of life, experience of health, experience of fortune is in an improperly oriented building, and compare that to the lives of others who are in properly oriented buildings. No further research need be done. The result is obvious and easily verifiable by anyone without consulting anyone. Very extraordinarily practical message, and Maahaaarshyi reiterated, the time to move is now. Why stay in a home that we know scientifically is thwarting our creativity, is damaging our fortune, is restricting our personality and thinking, is afflicting our health? We should move as though an earthquake has struck our home and immediately move into a properly oriented home built in accordance with Vastu Vidya, accord with the constitution of the universe. So a very, very timely and important message, and the research confirming all this direct experience is true, is the experience of many. Dr. Eike Hartman, our Minister of Global Reconstruction, will share the practical experience and practical programs of global reconstruction of Maharishi Sthapatya architecture. Dr. Eike Hartman is certainly the world's most illustrious, world's foremost scientist of Vedic architecture in harmony with natural law, as a result of which he was honored by Raja Ram and appointed as the Minister of Global Reconstruction of the global country of world peace. Dr. Eike Hartman, who is connected with us, has been involved with more construction of Sthapatya homes and buildings than anyone else on earth, and has gone deeply, deeply with Maharishi into the Vedic scriptures, the Vedic science of architecture in harmony with natural law, and is bringing that deepest knowledge now to practical use for the practical benefit of humankind now in this global implementation of it in this program of the global financial capital of New York to quickly rebuild the entire world to be maximally fortune promoting. So please listen carefully to the great wisdom and immense practical experience of Dr. Eike Hartman, Global Minister of Global Reconstruction of the global country of world peace. Dr. Hartman.
Jai Gurudev. It is my great joy today to consider the knowledge and fundamental principles of Maharishi Sthapatya, Vedic architecture in harmony with natural law, in the context of our program for the reconstruction of the whole world to create the permanent basis for lasting world peace. The means to promote an ideal problem-free society based on prevention-oriented administration is to utilize the principles and procedures contained in Sthapatya Veda to provide fortune-creating buildings and ideal Vedic garden cities free from pollution, noise and stress to the whole population. Maharishi says, when a nation utilizes Vedic science of architecture and city planning in accord with natural law to structure buildings and cities that maximize happiness, health and fortune, the government will be delighted to see that a peaceful, problem-free character is rising in the whole country. The government will find that not only has the quality of building and city design been transformed, but the whole character of national life is rising in better health, peace and harmony with natural law, and other problems also are not appearing in national life. This will mean the government has achieved a new level of efficiency in administration and fulfilled the ideal for every government, a prevention-oriented and problem-free administration. On the practical level, Maharishi Sthapatya provides the orientation, symmetry and balance for the underlying blueprint of the reconstruction program of the global country of world peace in terms of construction of fortune-creating homes for everyone, peace colonies, and ideal cities, even replanning entire countries. According to the main textbook of Mahārshi Sthapatya, Manasa Vastu Shastra, the capital of a country should be located in the center of the country alongside of an auspicious river or lake, so that from one central place of wholeness, where the totality of natural law of the nation is residing, the so-called Brahmastan of the country, the national administration, is saturated with the holistic quality of the constitution of the universe, which upholds and administers the entire ever-expanding universe in perfect order, supporting the man-made constitution of national life. Similarly, each city should be designed like an open galaxy flying through space, laid out around the central Brahmastan, which here in case of a city is a large square park open to the sky and the source of the orderly east-west and north-south aligned road system, enabling all homes to be auspiciously oriented. In the same way, in the design of each auspicious fortune-creating home, the central point is honored as the Brahmastan, where the totality of natural law is lively, establishing the connection from the individual structure to the cosmic structure, the fountainhead of creativity, affluence, and perfect health. In this way, the abstract cosmic principles of Mahārshi Sthapatya are represented on the expressed level in brick and stone and become instrumental to maintain the lively link between individual life and cosmic life. Unless communities, homes, and working places are designed to be in harmony with the natural law that harmonizes everything in creation and maintains order of the whole ever-expanding universe, the individual will always remain off balance, and this should be avoided at all costs. There is a direct one-to-one connection of the sun, moon, planets and stars to the thalamus, hypothalamus, and the basal ganglia in the brain. Lack of balance between the individual and his cosmic counterparts will always be the basic cause of problems, misfortune and ill health, and even chronic diseases which cannot easily be treated by any conventional medicine or therapy. People do not know that many misfortunes arise from lack of proper orientation of buildings in which they live and work. They have suffered and experienced negativity of many kinds, not knowing that the design of the home itself was the cause of their suffering. For that reason, a great deal of negativity, ill health and conflict prevail in families, communities, in city life, national life, and even on the international level. In this scientific age, we should not repeat the mistakes of the past. Vedic architecture is the only science in the world that has the knowledge of balance and the effect of orientation on human life. This principle is explained on this chart, which shows that only eastern and northern entrances are auspicious. All other entrances contribute to negative and destructive effects. From 8 possible directions, only 2 are auspicious. That means in an average modern city, at least 75% of all buildings violate some aspect of natural law. Everyone can choose from this chart which effect he would like to have for himself and his family. But remember, if you favor natural law will favor you. Everyone who is not totally satisfied with health, success, relationships, or fortune should verify whether their houses, offices, and factories are built according to natural law and oriented in the proper auspicious direction. Therefore, the knowledge of Vedic architecture and city planning is part of the curriculum of the Mahāārshi Central University, which is being built in the Brahmastan of the United States and in the Brahmastan of every country as a university of total knowledge to train the leaders of the next generation. In the same way, it is taught as a compulsory discipline in the colleges of Vedic medicine everywhere. Doctors are supposed to routinely ask their patients and evaluate the patient history to find out the deeper cause of their problems, which is depending on the direction in which they sleep or work and how the home and office is oriented. Because it says in the textbooks of Ayurveda, in the Ashtanga Sangraha, that one should not even live one day in a building that is not according to Vastu. Not even one day in a building that is not according to Vastu. The doctor then will also inquire about the location of nearby bodies of water, the slope of the land, and position of mountains, which possibly are causing inauspicious delay of the rising sun. Depending on his diagnosis, the doctor then may come to the conclusion that the patient should immediately leave his misfortunate, disease-creating home and move into an auspicious, fortune-creating home for instant relief. It is well known that there are buildings which continuously violate natural law and make everybody sick. They are called the sick building syndrome, and even entire cities exist which, due to wrong chaotic city planning, are severely influencing the health and happiness of the people. That means we do not only have a sick building syndrome, but also a sick planning syndrome, leading to the so-called city cancer of a chaotic city, which is even more dangerous because it affects the entire population. In most contemporary cities, roads are running in any direction, creating topsy-turvy orientation of houses, which leads to chaos, problems, crime, and violation of natural law in individual life and in society as a whole. These violations of the natural law of the Vastu accumulate day after day, month by month, and year after year, so that every city today lives under a heavy blanket of pollution and social stress, which, as we have seen, could break at any time, letting loose the fury of nature to punish and to destroy. Therefore, city planning is a great responsibility of the government, as it influences the destiny and well-being of everyone in the city and in the whole country. Mahāārshi Central University and the colleges of Vedic medicine, which are being found and built in every country, are offering this knowledge and training in Vastu Vidya of Mahāārshi Sthapatya Ved to everyone. There is an increasing body of scientific research on the effect of Mahāārshī studies on the quality and influence of the light of the rising sun, and brain research on the value of proper orientation, as well as statistical and sociological studies. A study published in the Journal of Affective Disorder reports that comparing inpatients assigned to rooms with eastern or western windows, those exposed to the eastern light had a mean of about 4 days shorter hospital day than patients in western rooms, which shows the great healing power of the light of the rising sun. Another study measured great improvement in the well-being of people who live or work in buildings built according to the principles of Mahāārshī in harmony with natural law. Other studies confirmed the negative influence of south-oriented buildings, showing more health problems and even more burglaries in homes with south entrances. In his life-transforming book on human physiology, Maharaja Nadaram found that consciousness, the Ved and Vedic literature, the fundamental structures of natural law, are at the basis of human physiology. When correlating the 40 qualities of intelligence with its corresponding Vedic term and its respective term in human physiology, Maharaja Nadaram finds that Sthapatya Ved corresponds to the field of human anatomy. He says that the holistic harmony that permeates all the components of human physiology is established through Sthapatya Ved. All aspects of the human anatomy, the number of vertebrae in the vertebral column and their divisions, the number, proportion, and location of ribs, all other bones and muscles, the symmetry of thousands of structures throughout the physiology, the precise dimensions and patterns of all the various cells, organs and organ systems, etc., relate to the fundamental structure and dynamics of Sthapatya Ved. For example, the 36 chapters of both Mayamata Vastu Shastra and Vishvakarma Vastu Shastra express as the 36 units of many physiological structures. The 70 chapters of Manasa Vastu Shastra relate to the 70 divisions of the peripheral nerves of the spinal cord associated with Rig Ved and the 70 types of mesodermal cells which form the entire skeletal and muscular structure of the body, a very significant aspect of the physiology. In addition, there are 8 types of villages, 8 types of towns, and 8 types of forts mentioned in Manasa. These correspond to the 8 types of organ systems. The Vastu Shastra of Manushalaya Chandrika and Harit Sanhita of Ayurveda both have 7 chapters corresponding to the 7 processes of the vertebra, the 7 dhatus, tissues of the body described in Charak Sanhita, and the 7 columns in the brain stem. Furthermore, Maharaja Nadaram has found that precise orientation of every cell, organ, and organ system is necessary for the physiology to function in such a way that diverse structures and functions operate in perfect harmony, thus creating an integrated system. Otherwise, chaos will emerge. Recent scientific discoveries in neuroscience reveal that our brain is highly sensitive to orientation, position, and direction in space. This research has shown that the firing patterns of neurons in the thalamus of the brain are altered by the direction one is facing. When one is facing east, the neurons in the brain assume a differing firing pattern than facing north, south, or west. The conclusion is that the coherence and power of thoughts, as well as the healthy functioning of the entire physiology, depend upon the direction one is facing, and that one's sense of direction gets confused in daily life when one lives in a building with wrong orientation, resulting in all kinds of physiological, psychological, and behavioral imbalances. In addition, recent scientific discoveries indicate that there are small magnets within the cells of the human brain acting like miniature compass needles. Researchers have discovered magnetite minerals in a part of the brain called hippocampus and have shown that extremely low magnetic fields have an important influence on brain cell activity. This supports findings that reveal that the human brain is sensitive to orientation. Thus, the brain response to orientation can also be explained on the basis of magnetic sensitivity of brain cells. Every building should be oriented with its main entrance facing east, so that the owner of the building and all its inhabitants gain maximum support from the rising sun, the strongest, most nourishing and beneficial influence of natural law on earth. As the sun is rising in the east and assuming its highest position at noon, and again setting in the west, it each time generates different energies. The energy of the rising sun is completely different from the energy of the setting sun, and thus influencing the quality of orientation of buildings. The house also should be so designed that the different energies of the sun correspond to the specific function and activity for each room. Then natural law always supports every aspect of our daily activity. When we are sleeping in the night, at 4 o'clock in the morning, all the cells begin to be aware of the rising sun. As the sun rises, the whole physiology is always changing its performance and activity according to the change which is brought about on earth by the impact of the sunshine. The total impact of sun and moon from east to west and from north to south is producing an effect on the whole physiology. This shows that Vastu is a great balancing power in nature, and then every aspect of human life is very well connected with everything that goes on in the universe. Whatever reasoning we give to our understanding, Maharaji was commenting earlier that human intellect can never understand the enormous complexity of the computation of Sthapatya Ved, Vedic architecture in harmony with total natural law, which is taking into consideration everything in the universe with reference to the individual physiology. Therefore, the authenticity of the formulas of Maharishi Sthapatya Ved, ranging from point to infinity, lies in the fact that it is Ved, Nitya Aparusheya Ved, uncreated and eternal, and need not be questioned by the individual mind, but rather followed precisely in order to obtain the benefits of health, wealth, and wisdom in daily life. The population in general does not need to know about the complex principles of Maharishi Sthapatya Ved. It is sufficient to adopt them as bylaws of city planning, as it is done by Maharishi Vedic City in Iowa, and then the root cause of at least 50% of all problems in private and professional life could be prevented. This is real prevention in administration and planning on the individual and collective level. To summarize, the main principles applied in Vedic architecture are orientation, balance, and connection of individual life to cosmic life. These are all very deep principles of natural law, which function on the level of perfect equilibrium. If in a country there is a place to achieve that same quality of perfect balance and harmony, then that is the central point, the Brahmastan of the country. The Vedic Pandits in the Brahmastan of India, which is the functioning capital of Ramraj, have started a program for the benefit of every country in the world to avert the danger before it arises. The Jyotish Pandits, according to Markandeya Puran, draw the Kurma diagram with its head towards the east over the shape of the country, and then calculate the planetary influences for the different areas and aspects of the nation in a yearly horoscope. Then, as described in Brihad Samhita, the Raja of the domain, in fulfillment of his supreme parental role in administration, authorizes and supports the auspicious performances of the respective Vedic yagya to eliminate and neutralize any negative influence coming from the planets. This is the Vedic system of prevention in the administration of a country. Modern society and modern science does not know much about the actual technology of creating balance, harmony, and peace, but is gradually learning to respect the supreme principle of Vedic civilization, upheld and honored throughout the ages. It is the declared goal of the financial capital of New York to take care of the needs of the world to the extent that for the entire population of the world about 1 billion new fortune-creating homes have to be built. All cities, towns, and villages will have to be reconstructed and transformed into fortune-creating garden cities built according to natural law. Our programs have the support of hundreds of scientific research studies and principles supported by modern physical sciences and ancient Vedic science of consciousness. Ideal Vedic architecture is capable of structuring heaven on earth so that the dignity of the whole belongs to every part. The house and the indweller of the home, the body and consciousness, are both in perfect harmony with each other and the totality of cosmic life, thus practically living the full potential of life in perfect health and happiness. In perfect health and happiness in the direction of realization of total knowledge, Aham Brahmasmi. To correct the wrong that has prevailed for centuries, our program of global reconstruction is being initiated in every city and country of the world. Maharishi Sthapatya, the knowledge-based, unified field-based architecture of the global country of world peace, is one of Maharishi's great life-transforming gifts to the world, and is instrumental to create and maintain individual and collective health and progress by providing ideal fortune-creating buildings, transforming life on earth in the direction of heaven on earth, global Ramraj. All glory to the evolutionary trends of time and the almighty intelligence of nature, which silently creates and maintains the unbounded universe in perfect order and in ever-expanding waves of bliss. All victory to Maharaja Nadaram. Vishva Vyapiram Raj Vijayante Taram. Mahārshi Vedic Vishva Prashasan Vijayante Taram. Brahmanan Sarasvati Vijayante Taram. All glory to Gurudev. Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev. And thank you very much, Dr. Eike Hartman, for this beautiful exposition, very concentrated, very rich with knowledge, very profound, extremely concise. But as you emphasized yourself, it's not necessary for everybody to have the detailed knowledge of the mechanics of Mahārshi Sthapatya architecture in harmony with natural law, nor even to know how to build a home fully aligned with natural law. That knowledge exists in its entirety, has been encoded and preserved throughout time, is time-tested in the ancient Vedic civilizations without problems, ideal quality of life, based in part on Sthapatya Vedic architecture. And that knowledge has been revived in its completeness today by Mahārshi Mahesh Yogi and is available to the builders of the world and the contractors of the world and all those who are responsible for building dwellings, businesses, buildings, schools, hospitals, and that knowledge is being made freely available all over the world today through the global organization of the global country of world peace, and spearheaded especially today by the global financial capital of New York, and presiding over this global initiative to reconstruct the whole world has been our speaker, keynote speaker today, Dr. Eike Hartman, who really showed us so concretely how proper orientation affects the lives of the people, affects the lives of the inhabitants of an entire city, affects government functioning, and really how systematic and simple it is to design things properly. The precepts, the codes for construction are precisely laid out and simple to follow. Indeed, I would support the idea that it should be now the law of the land in the building codes of a city, community, state, or country, where all further building now must be done right. As Mahārshi said, it's not an additional expense to build things with proper orientation, proper proportion. It's just the knowledge that is necessary. And what a shame to life to build things anymore equipped with this knowledge of Vastu Vidya. What a shame it would be, what a crime really, to continue to build homes in ignorance of natural law that actually damage the health, damage the creativity and intelligence of the people, that create discord and chaos and conflict, unhappiness, when fortune-creating homes, fully aligned with the constitution of the universe, can now be as easily built, as cost-effectively built. And consider the boon to builders and contractors to be able to, for essentially the same price of construction, offer the buyer, offer the future inhabitants of the buildings, fortune-creating home, maximally health-promoting, maximally success-enhancing, maximally fortune-creating homes and buildings. So the builders and contractors have the capability, by offering a far superior product, to profit more, to gain more, to charge more for this knowledge of perfect orientation. So what an opportunity for builders everywhere. What an opportunity for contractors everywhere to profit maximally while blessing the occupants, the governments, the people of the country with these ideal fortune-promoting homes. So blissful, we heard from Mahārshi himself. And anyone who's lived in such a home will similarly attest how extraordinarily different, how vastly more free, how much higher quality of life and health and happiness, freedom, just by moving into a Sthapatya Vedic home. So easy and so important to the prevention of problems for civilization today and generations to come, to build buildings henceforth, from this day on, that are simply built right, built in harmony with natural law, to promote the life of the inhabitants to be fully in accord with natural law. Dr. Heike Hartman shared with us the extreme contrast that would come simply from orienting a home to the east versus the south, for example. So easily can that proper orientation be achieved in any new building. So now is the time to act, and this knowledge is available immediately. Anyone, any builder, any contractor, any home builder, homeowner, who would like to live immediately and build immediately such homes, such buildings, such schools, contact us directly at globalfinancialcapitalny.org. You can email us at the email address info@globalfinancialcapitalny.org and be connected immediately to the offices of Dr. Heike Hartman to receive that knowledge and to prepare a plan for the proper construction of all buildings and proper design of the layout of communities, towns, and cities for maximum enjoyment, health, quality of life, and good fortune for all the members of society and for everyone on earth today. It is a great joy at this point to present the culmination of today's presentations with the profound remarks and reflections and summary by Dr. Bevan Morris, the Prime Minister of the global country of world peace. Dr. Bevan Morris, as Prime Minister, has that global responsibility to work at the right hand of Maharaja Ram under the direct inspiration of Maharishi Mahesh Yogi to implement initiatives all over the world for global reconstruction, for proper education, unified field-based education, for unified field-based Vedic healthcare clinics and hospitals, medical colleges, for building groups of coherence-promoting yogic flyers to bring invincibility to every nation and permanent peace on earth, and so forth. Such life-supporting global initiatives in 192 countries of our world are overseen in good measure by Dr. Bevan Morris, who has not just the responsibility, but the supreme organizing ability, really absolutely unmatched, to be able to oversee and to manage so many projects and to move with such great nimbleness and adeptness at whatever new initiative Maharishi gives expression to as the need of our time. Dr. Bevan Morris is therefore, as Prime Minister, presides over all the ministries of Maharaja Ram, including the Ministry of Global Reconstruction, and is a great expert and authority on all of these areas. He also happens to be the world's foremost educator and dynamic proponent of Maharishi's unified field-based Vedic educational approach. In that capacity also serves as the president and chairman of the board of trustees of Maharishi University of Management and its award-winning Maharishi School of the Age of Enlightenment, educations of higher knowledge where all students enjoy extraordinary, unprecedented performance and development in every area of student life, every area of academic achievement, simply through the incorporation of Maharishi's unified field-based, consciousness-based approach to education. Please welcome our culminating speaker today, Dr. Bevan Morris, Prime Minister of the global country of world peace. Jai Gurudev.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hagelin. The theme of today's conference that Dr. Hagelin has presented is that any individual can transform their fortune by moving to a better house. Any organization can improve its fortune by moving to a better building. Any government can be a more successful government by moving to a better building. And that better building is a fortune-creating building. A building that is designed and built to be according to the cardinal directions, north, south, east, and west, and with an eastern entrance open to the healthful rays of the dawning sun. Such fortune-creating buildings promote the health, the happiness, and the good fortune of their fortunate inhabitants. It has become clear that this knowledge is rooted in Sthapatya Ved, Vedic architecture in harmony with natural law, the most ancient of all architectural systems. But Dr. Hagelin has demonstrated to us that ultimately this is the level of architecture also that is rooted in the unified field of natural law, the most advanced discovery of quantum physics, the level at which totality of natural law, the administrator of the ever-expanding universe, is consolidated in a unified and universal state. This kind of architecture accords with the fundamental organizing or structuring principles of the ever-expanding universe that are rooted in the unified field itself. So this system of architecture has, in this modern age, the very clear principles from the scientific level of the unified field, as well as scientific confirmation of the effects of this architecture as recorded in the research publications in scientific journals. When Maharishi commented on Dr. Hagelin's address, he immediately pointed out that there is a simple way for anyone watching today to verify what Dr. Hagelin has said, and that is in the basis of a proverb that we all know, that the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So it's very difficult to describe the wonderful effects of living in such a fortune-creating house. Maharishi said it's virtually indescribable, but it's possible for any of us to directly experience what the benefits of living in such a house are like. The proof of the pudding is in the eating. Have the taste of living in such a fortune-creating home, and you will know instantly the great effect that this is now going to have for you and for your family and for the whole rest of your life. Maharishi was very kind to share with us that he himself has carried out the recommendation of this proverb, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. He himself has, since 1998, he has been living in a house in Vlodrop in Holland, Meru in Holland, which is completely designed according to these principles. Dr. Hagelin has also been living there, and I've been living there, and others, and this is the main center of administration and organization of the global country of world peace in the world, the international capital. But it is also where Maharishi has found himself to be fortunately residing over these years since this house was constructed. It is constructed completely oriented to the true directions, north, south, east, and west. And that main entrance that you can see when you see the picture of this beautiful building faces completely to the east. That means that at the equinox each year, that the sun is directly in front of the entrance as it rises. The building faces perfectly to the east and basks in the rays of the dawning sun falling on its front door every morning. In addition, this house, which was designed by Dr. Eike Hartmann, who we just heard from, this house accords with all the principles of Sthapatya Ved. For example, the placement of the rooms in the building, the precise mathematical proportion of the different structures, the different columns and walls and doors, all to be perfectly oriented and yet also perfectly in accordance with the mathematical structuring principles of the universe. In this house, you always know which way you're facing. You always have the ability to be completely in accord with all the laws of nature at every moment that you are residing in the house. And so this is just a grand example of a fortune-creating home there in the Mijnweg forest of Holland. And what Maharishi said his experience was when he moved into this house nearly 10 years ago, he said, when I began to live in such a vastu home, vastu means a house built according to these fortune-creating principles, architecture in accord with natural law. When he said, when I am living in this vastu house, the walls don't create a cage for me. The walls are as transparent as cosmic living, as if one is not segmented by the walls from the structure of the entire universe. Maharishi said he doesn't feel in that house in any way cramped by the walls in the house. Completely transparent, unrestricted, unbounded feeling in that perfectly oriented house built according to the principles of Sthapatya Vedic architecture in harmony with natural law. He contrasted that with his previous experience of life, because what Maharishi had been doing from the very early days of teaching transcendental meditation, he has just been moving about the world constantly from place to place to place. And he lived as a guest in people's homes, and he just lived wherever he could live as he went round the world. But always he noticed when he was in those houses that were all higgledy-piggledy oriented different ways, angled with entrances in the south or southwest, or all kinds of funny structures and shapes, and the rooms in the wrong places. And when he was in those houses, he always felt that he was in a cage when he was within those walls. But in these vastu houses, these fortune-creating houses, he does not feel any restriction in those walls. So this, he said, is why Dr. Hagelin is emphasizing this point to everyone in the world, that everyone should have a home like that. No one should be unnecessarily restricted by their house or have misfortune due to their house. It is so unnecessary, pointless to do that. So Dr. Hagelin recommended everyone to be in such a house. And again, Maharishi said, if you have any question about that, if you don't feel sure, taste of the pudding is in the eating. The proof of the pudding is in the eating. Try it out. Have the experience. Look into it. You will find that this is the most simple and powerful way of transforming your fortune in life automatically. Maharishi also recommended strongly to the builders. He addressed the builders of the world. They're building things already. So if they're building, why not build houses that are fortune-creating houses, vastu buildings? The cost is the same. It's just the same cost to build the building. But by building like that for the people who you are building for, the builders, Maharishi said, you will be blessing the buyers of your houses. What a nice thing. A builder can just do such a good thing to the buyers of their houses, create a fortune-creating house, instead of, by contrast, creating some wrong house, wrongly oriented, wrong entrances, wrong everything, and then dumping their fortune, the fortune of the people for whom you are building, into all kinds of limitations. Why do it? Maharishi said to the builders. Maharishi put this in the context of the high purpose that he has set for his whole activity in the world. We are raising collective consciousness at this time to a high level of invincibility, to a cosmic magnitude, to a level of collective consciousness which is as integrated as the constitution of the universe, which conducts the ever-expanding universe. We don't even know it's going through this constant expansion, but it is, and it's being conducted by this field of natural law, the constitution of the universe, Now the collective consciousness of nations is going to be on that level of the constitution of the universe. And what Maharishi said we are doing here, it's not for show. It's not anything like that. This is everything on the level of being itself, the fundamental field, the unified field itself. That is the level of this operation. So again, Maharishi said, having described to you my experience of living in such a house, follow my example. Living in this house, my thinking has been completely unrestricted. Dr. Hagelin is that one great man in the world who can advise the people to live in a house that will not limit the personality of the house. The contrast Maharishi gave is like when one is ignorant and restricted, the body is a very tight boundary. But a person, he gave the analogy, supposing one owned some large body of land, suppose even 5 hectares, then one is bigger. One owns 5,000 hectares as one territory, bigger. 100,000 hectares, bigger. On this level of vastu housing, one is literally the owner of the entire universe. That is the cosmic magnitude of the person living in such a house. So everyone should get out of being small in the restrictions of wrong houses and get big and bigger and biggest in the unlimited, unrestricted level of living in a house where the walls are as if totally transparent, unrestricted, and one is completely on the level of the cosmic magnitude of the cosmos itself. Maharishi also told us today, where does this knowledge come from? Where does the knowledge of how to build such houses arise from? And he said it's been projected from the level of the constitution of the universe itself. That is to say, in Dr. Hagelin's language, it's from the unified field. The unified field has a dynamic structure. That dynamical flowing structure is in the form of sound, Vedic sound, and all those sounds, those reverberations of the unified field together, they comprise the totality of all the laws of nature, or the constitution of the universe. And one section of those designing principles of the universe is Sthapatya-Ved, the Vedic science of architecture. So this knowledge that we are discussing today, it's not something human in its invention. It's part of the design of the universe at the level of the unified field, the level of total natural law, or Veda, or constitution of the universe, or the unified field, which is the administrator of the ever-expanding universe, which has no limits. There are no limits to the expansion of the universe administered from this infinite level of the unified field. This is the level that is administering the universe, which is going on and on and on forever. And this is the level from which the authentic knowledge of building houses and cities has arisen, Maharishi explained. Again, Maharishi said, for me, by myself, I know this reality because the walls in my house are transparent for me, and I am actually afraid to go to any other house, because if I go to some other house that is wrongly built and oriented, I will be caged. So this is in contrast to his experience of the Vastu building in which he is residing, which has such freedom, he said, such abundance, enormous authority over space and time. This is living in cosmic magnitude. This is living in Vastu, in the Vastu building. So the builders of the world, Maharishi said, would be well advised to listen closely to what Dr. John Hagelin has just spoken to us, and continue to listen until the whole world is structured in heaven, is structured on that level of the administration of heaven, which administers the universe without restriction. Live in these Sthapatya-Ved buildings. That Sthapatya-Ved, which is the section of the constitution of the universe, section of the Ved, which is the law of stabilizing life. This section of the Ved, Stapatya Ved, is that which stabilizes the individual in cosmic status through building, through the design of buildings, cities, nations. It's just a thing beyond speech that such a knowledge exists, and a new world will now be lived in by just the same people who are living now, but they will never be sick. There will be peace. There will be unbounded prosperity, unlimited prosperity, just even on the basis of this reconstruction of the world, so every building is fortune creating in its design and construction. It's a very timely call, Maharishi said, to the builders of the world to rebuild the world. We are inviting the builders of the world to rebuild the world so it is heaven on earth. They'll be building with the same bricks, the same mortar, the same marble, the same wood by which the walls and ceilings and everything now are built. But with the architect laying out every building in the proper direction, north, south, east, west, that is going to make such a big difference to everyone in the world. Maharishi said, he made another analogy that the present buildings, they're comparable to when somebody who is a captive, a prisoner, is put into, they have a house too, they're put in there and they're not allowed to go out. They're under heavy restriction of the walls. The walls are a hell for any captive, for any prisoner. And in the Vastu building, it's the extreme opposite of that. The walls are just heaven because they are totally transparent. So this is basically the range of choice for the human race now. Should the walls in which we are enclosed be walls of hell or walls of heaven? So this is the choice to be made. Living in a Vastu building will not be obstructed by anything. Maharishi said he had been all these years when he was traveling around, he was feeling jerks and jolts from the buildings. Think how patient he was to keep going around the world when he was experiencing the damaging effects of these buildings everywhere, but he kept doing it. So he again said, listen to Dr. Hagelin. Dr. Hagelin said to the builders, why build hell for the people when you can build heaven for the people? All the builders owe their gratitude to Dr. Hagelin for giving them this knowledge and this choice at this moment, to build on such an ideal level, to take from the constitution of the universe itself how to build, how the building should face the sun in the morning, for example. Everyone knows that the sun is the giver of health. And so it's a very simple principle. In the morning sun, whose rays are most healthy, should fall upon the front door of the house. It's just orientation. Those who are living in houses facing south or west, they should verify what effects this is actually having on them. What kind of misfortunes are they suffering? Verify in your own family how your house is affecting you. It's another example of the proof of the pudding. Just see what effect you are experiencing now from your house. Those who are living in a house with a south or west entrance, examine your own value. Maharishi said, I am giving to every person listening your acid test. How is your family doing? See that how living in an oriented house or not living in an oriented house affects people around you. Those who are living in an oriented house, what effect does that have? Those not living, what effect does that have? See the effect. You don't even have to ask an architect about it. You can just verify it. by inspecting the situation, your own situation and the situation of your neighbors, whether you are living in hell or heaven. And if your house is creating a hell for you, is creating misfortune for you, your house is no more worthy of being your house. So you should get out of it and get into a proper house. You can just choose. You could choose either to get into a better house, or, if you prefer, just live in the wrong house and continue to be sick, worried, inadequate, and fighting with your friends. Either that, or you can have your cosmic potential in a properly oriented house. The choice is yours. We can only say, hear the situation, see the situation, and then live the way you like. The taste of the pudding is in the eating. You don't have to ask anyone. Taste it yourself. Look, for example, at streets that run north-south, and you'll find that on the one side of the street, where the houses will all face east, they'll have healthy children and happy lives. And on the other side, where the entrances are all west-facing, then the house will be unfavorable to life. Here is a certificate of your destiny. Look to your house. Maharishi said, I have the experience of 80 to 90 years of living in wrong places. But somehow, from the grace of Gurudev, of his great master, his great teacher Gurudev, I never jolted from my purpose, which was enlightenment, and enlightenment for the whole world family. And thank heavens that all those wrong houses were not able to jolt Maharishi from his purpose, even though, unfortunately, he experienced their effects through most of his long life. He was living a few days or 15 days or 1 month, all these different places. But since he came to his present Vastu house, he said a very interesting thing. This house never left me. This house never left me. So one can't step down now to some individual status from cosmic status by virtue of living in the wrong house. So just look into it. Again, he emphasized, experience what side of the street, what creates what effect. And he advised once again, with Dr. Hagelin, you won't find any man greater as a well-wisher of life than him. Now he is out today with all the arguments to enjoy the benefits of this architecture and city planning, of Vastu, which is an aspect of total natural law, promoted by the constitution of the universe, promoted by the will of God, which is responsible for the whole creation. And Maharishi said, the time of our speaking is over. The taste of the pudding is in the eating. Those who have heard and followed me over all these years, they are better off today. I want to see every nation invincible, and I am going to make it happen. We look to the great program of administration of Raja Ram, that ancient dignity of administration, the very famous rule of Raja Ram, that is the administration of the constitution of the universe in the world, that has been upheld and cherished by ruling dynasties around the world in the long history of the human race. And about that kind of administration, there is an expression in the Vedic literature, Ram Raj Duk Kahu Na Vyapa, that in that reign, when the constitution of the universe, which administers the whole ever-expanding universe, is the administrator of the life of the nation as well, supporting everyone in the nation to fulfill all that they wish. The definition is, in that kind of administration, suffering belonged to no one. No suffering at all. and with the grace of the teacher, great teacher of Maharishi Gurudev, such a time, such a rule of Ram, of totality, can be again in our world. And Dr. Hagelin and all his colleagues, each a star of Bethlehem, are implementing all the programs to make this happen and go by their advice. The time of talking about these things is coming to an end, and the time is coming to that level of eternal being. Maharishi said all the listeners of this session today, led by Dr. Hagelin, are extremely fortunate to have heard what they have heard today. And that is on the basis of that great tradition of Vedic knowledge, the tradition of the constitution of the universe, the tradition of the perfect constitution for anything and everything that one would like to have in life. So for that great knowledge, Maharishi gave all glory to his teacher Gurudev, and all glory to the whole Vedic tradition of knowledge from which he and his master have come to give these great gifts of knowledge to our fortunate world in this fortunate time. Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev. Thank you very much, Dr. Bevan Morris, for this extraordinary presentation. Absolutely stellar summary and reflection on Maharshi's own address of today. Maharshi's own address of today was so profound, so practical, so personal, so compelling through the recounting of direct experience of the taste of the pudding. Proof the pudding is in the eating. Maharshi again recounted his own complete transformation of experience of his dwelling place when he went from the jolts of one place after another as he traveled the world, promoting total knowledge, to his current circumstances of ideal Vastu there at the international capital at Meru, Holland. So beautiful direct experience of Maharshi, and so beautifully emphasized by Dr. Bevan Morris, who absolutely clearly and absolutely lucidly recounted for us the deep and very compelling message of Maharshi today, who is responsible for the revival of Maharshi Vedic architecture, that's Sthapatya Vedic architecture, in harmony with natural law throughout the world, and responsible for this new initiative of the global financial capital of New York to absolutely ensure that everyone on earth, without delay, benefits and gains the relief from getting out of misfortunate homes and into fortune-creating homes. The difference, Maharshi said, as Dr. Bevan Morris reemphasized, is like building hell for the people as opposed to building heaven for the people. And one is as easy as the other. One is building in ignorance of the laws of nature governing architecture. One is building with the benefit of the knowledge of the laws governing architecture. And that knowledge, total knowledge, is available today for anyone and any builder and any contractor. So Maharshi charged the contractors, the builders of the world today, to build now and bless the inhabitants of those buildings with something so good. Very soon, it will be the law. The building codes will require it, absolutely. On the basis of science, they'll require it. But why wait until the law forces one to change when the knowledge is available today to easily commence with proper building, proper construction in accordance with natural law, to engage the full evolutionary power of natural law for the benefit of the individual? What a gift to life is that. And how profitable also is that to be able to give to the buyer something that they know on the basis of science, on the basis of ancient eternal experience, something they know will be a huge blessing to the life, to the health, to the happiness of their whole families, just by proper orientation, just by building in accord with the constitution of the universe. So all builders, all contractors, all architects who clearly need this knowledge to fulfill the purpose of their training as an architect, which is to bless the owners of homes and buildings with the good benefits and not the misfortunate benefits of wrongly oriented homes. So architects, builders, contractors, contact us immediately at the email address info@globalfinancialcapitalny for New York.org. Again, that's info@globalfinancialcapitalny.org. And we will put you in touch immediately with the proper offices of Dr. Eike Hartmann, the Minister of Global Reconstruction of the Global Country of World Peace, who will get back to you with the knowledge, with the programs, with the plans to begin construction immediately in a proper way and really gain the blessing and give the blessing of properly oriented homes for maximum fortune for the individual and society. Again, it's as easy as contacting us at the email address info@globalfinancialcapitalny.org. And we'll get back with you and give you all you need to begin to build rightly, correctly, for the benefit of the world. So this concludes our global conference on Maharishi Vedic architecture. And I invite all of you and all members of the press to return with us on Tuesday, same time and same channel, for this global webcast and satellite telecast of a conference at that time on poverty removal, really practically eliminating once and for all poverty and suffering from the whole world through the very practical approach of the global country of world peace and the instrumentality of the global development currency, the RAM, and by utilizing millions of unused agricultural lands, lands with agricultural potential, arable lands that are unused or underutilized today, through all these programs to harness the natural resources of a country, the agricultural resources of a country, the economic resources of the country with the RAM, and the full human resources of the country through the developmental programs of Maharishi's Vedic science and technologies of consciousness, poverty can be eliminated once and for all, and the whole world can live in great creativity and prosperity, peace and invincibility nationally and globally. So that will be Tuesday at 11:30 Eastern Standard Time, where we'll broadcast again from here, 70 Broad Street, the global financial capital of New York, in the heart of the financial capital of the world. A beautiful institution to revitalize the world's economy, its healthcare, its education, its architecture, its agriculture, and to eliminate poverty from the whole world. Again, we will talk about that on Tuesday. I invite all members of the press and all of you to join us at that time. And today I'd like to thank all of our speakers again. His Holiness Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, Minister of Architecture, Dr. Eike Hartmann, and Prime Minister of the Global Country of World Peace, Dr. Bevan Morris, for their beautiful remarks and presentations of today. Until Tuesday, Jai Gurudev.